Well, first off, I'd like to recognize the Dena'ina people whose land this facility is on, and who have lent their many names to this building. So thank you to the original people of Alaska here. I also want to thank the members of the press for taking time out of your busy schedules to come, and most importantly, thank supporters who've shown up kind of unexpectedly. So thanks so much for that. You know, a friend of mine sailed single-handedly one time from Juneau to Honolulu, and I thought about, you know, him bobbing around on that sailboat out in the Pacific all by himself, and I asked him, well, what was the hardest thing about that trip? And he said without hesitation, oh, untying from the dock in Juneau. And I think that's really what I'm about to do here, is untie from the dock. So I've asked you here today to say that I'm going to seek the Democrat nomination for governor in 2010. I'm also here to express my deep belief in Alaska's bright future. True, this is an early announcement. As Sheila Toomey at the Ear pointed out, I'm not exactly a household name, and I'll be using the next 4 or 5 months as an opportunity to meet as many of those 315,000 plus Alaskan voters that are out there, and to hear their hopes and dreams, their concerns, their challenges, and to answer questions they may have about me. This week marks two very important dates to me. One is important to Alaska, one's important to me personally. This is 50 years since Alaska became a state, and you know, in adult years that makes Alaska a mature adult. And I think that's an important milestone for Alaska. For me, it's almost to the day when I came to Alaska 28 years ago. One of the great things that I love about Alaska is when you ask people who've relocated here about what Alaska means to them, they generally can answer, I mean, almost 100%. They can tell you what date they got here, what the weather was like, and how it made them feel. And I think that really expresses the deep connection that they have with the state. To me, moving to Alaska was the most important thing I've done in my life. Alaska is a really big deal to me, and the future of Alaska is a really big deal to me. All Alaskans, whether you were born here and raised here, or you were fortunate enough to relocate here, have a connection with this state that's probably not found anywhere else in America. My career, my 28-year career here has been divided equally between the private and public sectors. From a public sector perspective, I've served 4 governors. I've worked for Governor Sheffield, Governor Cooper. I worked for Governor Hickel. He fired me and hired me. I worked for 6 years in Governor Knowles' cabinet, and I also worked for Senator Drew Pierce putting together the Senate's capital budget. My roles have included OMB, Department of Transportation, Office of International Trade, Environmental Conservation, the Department of Administration, Executive Director of Alaska Industrial Development Export Authority, or ADA, also Executive Director of Alaska Energy Authority. You know, if you did succession planning like, if states did succession planning like corporations do, those would be the kind of jobs you'd have a younger executive working in to make sure that when they got ready to be the CEO, or in this case the governor, they were well schooled in how state government worked and what it takes to really make this organization function. And I think that is similar to my background. I've also had a rewarding career in the private sector. I worked for Price Waterhouse, they're who brought me up here, and with them I was one of the 2 designers of the state accounting system. That was in 1981. Miraculously, that's still the system the state of Alaska uses today. I worked for Coopers & Lybrand. I had a medical management consulting practice. I put together medical groups, some you may have heard of, like the Alaska Heart Institute, the Anchorage Women's Clinic. I worked for a native-owned engineering firm as a senior vice president for ASCG, and I was recently the president and CEO of Anchorage Economic Development Corporation. I am not a professional politician. I have not been spending my life building up name recognition for a possible run for governor at some point, as Sheila reminded me. I am a professional who has been accomplishing tough jobs for Alaskans within a political environment. And that takes a certain skill to do it. I'm not just running, though, because I think I'm qualified. I'm running because I'm deeply concerned about Alaska's future. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm an optimist. I am an absolute optimist. I think Alaska has a lot to be proud of. We have a resilient economy. We've survived $10 a barrel oil 3 times, and we've come out stronger each time. We have a multi-generational economy. And what I mean by that is whether you were born here or you moved here, as many people did in the 70s and 80s, we probably didn't foresee a future that we have today, where we have our kids and grandkids and a population of nearly 700,000 people. It's very important that we think about the jobs for all of those people, ourselves, our kids, our grandkids. We have a diversified population that speaks over 90 languages. That's a critical element to any growing community. We have a stable housing market in the face of a declining market nationally. We have strong native corporations based here that are earning money all over the world and returning that to Alaska. We have vast oil and gas reserves remaining. We have an unparalleled base of other natural resources like seafood, minerals, timber, alternative energy resources like wind, hydro, tidal, geothermal, and the possibilities of making hydrogen. Air cargo operations in Alaska and Fairbanks are among the busiest in the world, and our geographic location is a resource between Asia and North America. But today Alaska is standing on an economic precipice, and this is what concerns me. 1/3 of our economy depends on oil and gas. 93% of all the money the state gets comes from oil and gas. Another 1/3 of our economy depends on our relationship with the federal government. And 1/3 is everything else you can think of. Fishing, air cargo, marine transportation, mining, all of that's in that other third. You know, oil prices this year have dropped from their high of $150 to less than $40. The current administration is saying, you know, this is an unprecedented drop. Well, true enough, a $110 drop is unprecedented. But let's put that in perspective. Over the last 50 years, $40 barrel of oil would have been a wildly optimistic dream for any other administration. I have the dubious distinction of having served in all 3 times that we had $10 barrel oil. And remember, we had $10 barrel oil as recently as 2000. A lot of people forget that, but that was just 8 years ago. Now, I'm not predicting $10 barrel oil, but the current administration's budget is based on $74 a barrel. So while this certainly helps avoid some unpleasant political decisions, is that really wise for Alaska's future? As America and the world continue to slip deeper into economic decline, is the state of Alaska taking the steps it needs to make sure it has a brighter economic future, that we emerge again from this economic downturn stronger? Sarah Palin bragged about taking on big oil. This is sort of like publicly telling off your biggest customer. While it might feel good, it doesn't do your business much good at all. And need I remind you, 1/3 of our economy, 93% of state revenue depends on the oil revenues. One of the things we accomplished with statehood was that we gave Alaskans a much stronger voice about what corporations did here. Before statehood, they didn't have much voice. Today, we do. But with those 50 years of statehood also comes the responsibility of doing that in a mature way. Hopefully the oil industry is in Alaska for the long haul, but new investment depends on their perception of the business climate here. And that diversified economy I've been talking about depends very much on new investment, perhaps more than most Alaskans understand. Sarah Palin told America she was building that $40 billion pipeline. No, she's not. And there's no pipeline being built. Her administration turned a business negotiation on a pipeline into a bureaucratic RFP. They had one acceptable proposal from a good company, TransCanada, which has no gas. Her predecessor lost faith with Alaskans by negotiating a gas line in secret. She's losing faith with Alaskans by promising transparency but gaming the AGEA process to steer the license to a company that her administration chose, guaranteeing $500 million with no guarantee of construction. And it's $500 that nobody asked for except Mid-America, and Mid-America didn't propose. Denali's not asking for $500 million. My approach would be to take a statesman's-like approach excuse me, that brings all parties together. I believe a real leader would pull current producers, future producers, pipeline operators, owners of the right-of-way, affected communities, Canada and its provinces, financial markets, state and federal regulators all together. And what we would do is negotiate in a business-like manner, not a political manner, and we would continually vet these discussions with the public and the legislature.